quadratic equation with roots -4 and 5. What does roots mean? Well, all it means is that whenever you're given a question that, for example, says to solve this quadratic or to solve this difference of two squares, like we've been doing in the last few videos, what you get as a result of x is equal to this, x is equal to that, is essentially another word for a root. So when you get an answer of x is equal to, for example, -4, that is also a root. So we have to form the quadratic equation. We have to work backwards when we are given the actual answer of the root, and we have to actually solve for the original quadratic expression. So we know that the root is -4 and 5. And to be honest, these are really quick and easy to do, but there is one step that many people forget to do. When you're slotting this in and trying to solve for this, you need to change its signs. Why? Because, say for example, x plus 4 is equal to 0, right? We're familiar with this. So all you would do is x plus 4 is equal to 0. So this essentially is what we are trying to get. But then we have to solve for it. It gives us -4, so the sign is different, right? The sign is different because we're bringing it over to the other side. So this will be 4, and this will be -5 when we are looking at it from the bracket form. Okay, so now that we have that cleared up, we can begin. So x plus 4 and x minus 5. So this is what it would have looked like when you were trying to solve, and then you would have got x is equal to -4, x is equal to 5. Now, the next thing you have to do is just multiply this all out. How do we multiply it all out? Is that you take the first term from the first bracket and multiply it by the second bracket. So x multiplied by x minus 5, and then you take the second bracket from the first bracket and multiply by the second bracket. Plus 4 multiplied by x minus 5. Now, we just multiply it all out. So we get x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 20. Then we also have to remember that this is all equal to 0, okay? Now we just simplify this all out. X squared minus x minus 20 is all equal to 0. Now, if we were to kind of backtrack with this is a quadratic. Now, there may be a question out there saying, okay, solve this quadratic. And when you solve it out, you will get x is equal to 4 and x is equal to 5. So that's all it is. Now, if you're quite paranoid, you can verify it. And how do you verify it? You just simply factorize and solve. So we can solve it out and we can prove that this will give us this, okay? Now, let's do it. So we have our two brackets. The two signs, they could be either or, plus, or minus, or plus. So we'll put the two x's there. We don't know the signs. What are two numbers that when multiplied will give us 20, but when added or subtracted gives us -1? Well, 5 and 4. So we'll put a 4 here, we'll put a 5 here. Now we have to work out the signs. So by using that, we can use the smiley face method. So I'll put a plus here and I'll put a minus there. So plus 4 multiplied by x gives us plus 4x. X multiplied by minus 5 gives us minus 5x. And then as a result, we get minus x, which is in the middle, and therefore we know it is right. Now we can solve, which is x plus 4, all equal to 0. And then x is equal to minus 4. We have the first root right. Now, x minus 5 is equal to 0, and then x is equal to 5. And there we have it. These are the exact same roots as what the question was asking for. So when we solve for x, this is also known as a root. We can then apply this logic to when someone is asking us to form a quadratic when given roots. This, though, this whole step that I did is optional. You don't have to do, but you can do it to try and understand this whole concept and to verify if you are right. Now they are asking us to form the quadratic equation with the roots of 6 and minus 2. Now, first thing we do is we change the signs. So we have the roots of 6 and minus 2. Now we have to change that to minus 6 and 2. Now we can solve this out. So there will be two brackets, x and an x, and it will always be x and an x. There will never be a quadratic when you solve it all out where there will be a number in front of the x squared, so that it will always be x and x. Slot these two numbers into here. So minus 6 plus 2. And now we can solve. So x multiplied by x plus 2, and then minus 6 multiplied by x plus 2. That will give us x squared plus 2x minus 6x, and then minus 12. And if you want, you can keep reminding yourself, this is all equal to 0. This is all equal to 0. This is all equal to 0. Because it is. And then x squared minus 4x minus 12 is equal to 0. And this is the quadratic that would have been the root when solving for this. Now, if you want, you can verify. Once again, it is not required, it's not mandatory, but it's optional if you really do want to. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 12. What are two numbers when multiplied will give us 12, but when added or subtracted will give us 4. That'll be 6 and 2. So we'll put x and an x, and we'll put 6 and a 2, and we'll put the minus and a plus, just like what we did here, just to test it all out if it essentially gives us these roots. So then we draw a big line, and we do x minus 6 is equal to 0, so then x is equal to 6. And then 6 plus 2 is equal to 0, so then essentially x is equal to minus 2. Well, would you look at that? That is the root. So now for our last and third question, they're asking us to form the quadratic equation with the roots 5 and 0. So we'll do the exact same thing that we have been doing. So our roots are 5 and 0. Now we know that we have to change their signs. So this would be minus 5, but then what about 0? Would it be a minus 0? Well, no, because 0 is neither a positive or a negative. It's neither. So essentially we would just leave it as. Now we'll do the two brackets, x and an x, and we'll do minus 5. Minus 5. And now another question comes, do I put a plus or a minus 0? Well, it doesn't matter which one you do. If you do a plus 0 or a minus 0, it doesn't matter because it's a 0. It's not going to change anything. So for the sake, I'll just put plus 0, even though 0 is not a positive. You can still put a minus. It does not matter. Now we're gonna substitute all of this. No, not substitute. Now we're going to multiply this all out. So then x, bracket x plus 0, minus 0, doesn't matter, minus 5, x plus 0, and multiply this out. X by x gives us x squared. X by 0 gives us 0. And then minus 5 multiplied by x gives us minus 5x, and then minus 5 by 0 doesn't matter. All equal to 0. And this is the quadratic. X squared minus 5x. Now, when identifying, is this a quadratic or any other method? It's another method. Which one is it? Taking out what's common. It can't be a quadratic trinomial, even though I kind of did trick you all and say forming a quadratic, because it's not a quadratic. I did lie. Apologies. But, you know, this is a different method. Taking out what's common. Now, essentially doing this, x, taking out because x is common, bracket x minus 5. So that's it simplified, is equal to 0. Now we would need to put this into now we would need to solve. So we'll just do x, take 5 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 5. Would you look at that? That's the first That's the first root. Now, one may ask, well, what about that x? We can't just leave the x out. And you're right, we can't. So when you're solving for something and it's a different method than quadratics or difference of two squares, you would have to do x is equal to everything outside of the bracket. And what is outside the bracket? That's 0. So x is equal to 0 because that's literally everything that is outside of this bracket. Within the bracket, x minus 5, we've solved for that. We got 5. But everything outside the bracket, x and a 0. So x is equal to 0. So that's where we got the root 5, 0. Those are our two answers. Now, one may ask, well, what about the fourth factorizing method, grouping? Would grouping ever show up in this? And the answer is no. Grouping would never show up in these kind of questions when forming a quadratic equation or solving the quadratic formula or any of that kind. Only time grouping would show up is when you have to just factorize, not solve it or anything like that. So taking out what's common, grouping, and then we also have difference of two squares. So those are the three kind of factorizing methods that you would really have to focus on with this type of topic. And that is that. Thank you for watching.